need to
keep this on?
No. All right, welcome to That Floats. David Townsend, Craig Haskins. We have a special guest, the general counsel of our company, Knightberry, Sherry Hippenbecker, famous lawyer.
Woo.
In my own mind, Craig.
Whatever, it all counts. Today so every now and then, David, you're an underwriter. Every now and then, things don't go as smoothly in the title and closing world as we planned for, or maybe even trained for. I mean, when you're doing crazy volume like all the title folks have done since, I don't know, 2019, 18 forward to now, which is as we're nearing the end of 2021. With the crazy volume, every now and then something's minor slips through the cracks. You hope it doesn't turn into something major. And today, Sherry is going to tell the story about a claim that our company had. I mean, we're not perfect, but I think it was interesting. And maybe Sherry can enlighten us. And David, as always, you and I know that we're allowed to pop in and interrupt at any time we want, because this is our podcast, Sherry. So,
yep.
Anything to add on that, David? David, do you agree that we make mistakes every now and then?
Yeah, and even not even mistakes. I mean, we're an insurance company, and there could be errors in the land records, and claims aren't always a result of mistakes. There's just some nasty stuff out there, and you might not be able to anticipate it. And there's also issues with contracts with parties that just don't want to get along, and that makes it worse. But if there weren't claims, we wouldn't be necessary. Our whole industry. So that's why claims are healthy, because it shows the value of the product.
That's now the title of this episode, which is like, I don't know, episode whatever. Claims are healthy.
They are.
I'll make sure Sherry, make a note of that. So when we're negotiating our underwriter contracts, we can make that comment that
I think we get at least 3 free claims a year. I think that's what the new underwriting contract will be, because it's healthy. I'm trying to feed you underwriters into looking good.
Claims are healthy. All right, check.
Well, you guys said mistakes was a reason, and as a big reason. Number 2, another big reason is there's errors in the public land records. I would venture to guess number 3 is actually the biggest one: fraud. So we're going to be talking about I know.
No.
Gary, what if a claim via fraud creates a mistake in the land records? I think we might cover all of those.
This might be one of those.
Right now. All right, let's go.
This is everything. So this apparently is not unique to Knightberry Title. So we should, if you are in the title industry, think about that. Maybe this might happen to you. So you get in a purchase contract and you're going to do a transaction. It's a $42,000 vacant lot in a smaller municipality. You say, great. You talk to the realtor, and the realtor says, this is a great deal. We're going to sell this thing. A new house is going to be built on it. We say, great, let's go to closing. A couple days before closing, you get a $50,000 cashier's check in the U.S. Postal Service, mail to you.
Cash deal?
Yep, it's a cash deal. Oh, wait, what was the purchase price?
$42,000?
$42,000. Huh. Well, do we get to keep the $8,000 and put it in our pocket?
So was it $50,000 even?
50,000 even.
You know what we call zeros on a check for something like that? Or
I don't.
Handcuffs.
Okay.
Handcuffs, because there's no even numbers in what we do ever.
Well, the buyer was going to be traveling, and the buyer just wanted to make sure that, because this was a great deal, this is exactly going to be the investment place he's going to be, or he's going to live there. I don't know what the buyer's going to do. So he just sends that $50,000 so that he's ready to go with the closing, has everything signed and says, let's go.
I love how Sherry's buttering us up. I mean, come on, the guy's traveling.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, it's a great story. Come on, show some heart, David.
Yeah.
And then the buyer says, you know what, whatever the overage is, because I know it's going to be a little bit over. I don't know how much, $7,000, $8,000. That's fine. Go ahead and just wire transfer those funds to me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's just jump right on that.
Okay. Yeah. So we have the closing. We take that $50,000 check. We deposit it into our bank account. We go ahead and have the closing with the seller. The seller gets a check for their proceeds, and we record the deed in the land records.
Yep.
Anybody want to venture to guess what happened a few days later?
David in the back row.
That check was not good. The cashier's check.
No,
Yeah.
really?
I would say that was not good funds.
It was not good funds, in fact.
Yeah.
It bounced all the way to the bank.
Hmm.
So what was the criminal? So it bounces all the way to the bank. And then you immediately get the phone call. I think we have a problem, Sherry. How do we fix it? David, how do you think you fix this now? What's your first thing? So we have this $50,000 check. It bounces. We have a deed recorded. We have the seller's proceeds spent. Wait, did we wire out the $8,000 or so to the buyer?
Of course you did.
We did not. There is the best thing. Yes, Nightberry.
Suck it, fraudster.
Okay, change the name of this podcast to F it, fraudster.
I didn't say that. I said
So
suck
he said
it.
suck it,
Oh, I
fraudster.
thought you said
Oh, okay. You get to use the beep,
Oh, I get to beep out Sherry.
or actually just superimpose your own voice saying, okay.
Okay.
All right.
We didn't, thank goodness. And here's where Nightberry did well. We have this is our mantra: wire in, wire out, check in, check out.
Yep.
We got to check in. The fraudster, wait, no, he's not a fraudster. His name is Oliver St. Lawrence. Everybody, Oliver St. Lawrence. That sounds like a legit name, right?
That is so made up.
I love that name.
Oliver St. Lawrence.
Oliver St. Lawrence.
Dave, that's your porn name, isn't it?
It's actually Butterscotch Eastlake, because that was the name of my first pet and my street I grew up on. That's how it works.
Mine is RC, Iowa.
Ooh.
That's pretty sweet, isn't it?
Sherry, what was the name of your first pet?
Nosy.
And what was, okay.
No.
What was the name of the street you grew up on?
Surrey.
Nosy Surrey. Okay. All
Kinda
right.
hot.
Butterscotch Eastlake.
RC, Iowa. All right, sorry.
Okay, so we did not wire out the funds because one of the things that the fraudster clearly wanted us to take that $8,000, send it over, and they got $8,000 cash. Oliver St. Lawrence, not a criminal. No, not a criminal. But we have
Not a
a
smart
mantra in our-
criminal.
we have a mantra in our company that's wire in, wire out, check in, check out. Our closer followed that mantra. Thank goodness. We had a check that came in. She sent a check out. So the very first thing we do is we put a stop pay.
Stop
on
payment.
it.
Yep.
Which, by the way, wasn't that big of a deal because we ended up mailing it to a place in New York, and it came back to us a couple of weeks later, undeliverable, because of course it was a vacant lot in the middle of someplace in New York. So
Okay then.
Where'd the check come from?
where did the check come from? In the mail. I didn't get the return envelope or the envelope that came in. So I don't know. I just know it became in the regular. So you get a cashier's check from over the purchase price in regular mail. Apparently we're not the only title company to have had this happen, by the way, because your friends at, and now you might want to bleep this out, Craig, Fidelity put out a fraud newsletter every month in September of 2021. They talked about this particular fraud. And ours was
Well, if they had talked about it on their podcast, nobody would have heard it because we have much better listeners.
Oh, but they're heard in all the counties.
I'm sorry, it wasn't this particular fraud because we have not made this public until today, but it was the same fraud scheme.
Yep.
So,
Fidelity.
but now we have the real problem. We have a deed recorded in the land records that shows that was from seller to Oliver St. Lawrence.
Oh, that's right. We recorded the deed, didn't we?
Yeah.
We did record the deed, and the seller had the proceeds, some $30,000, $38,000, $39,000.
But you put a stop payment on that check.
That's already negotiated.
But you put a stop payment on that check already.
On the check to the criminal, to Oliver St. Lawrence.
Oh, but not to the seller?
Not to the seller, because the seller went from the closing on like a Tuesday. We find out about it on Friday, cashes that check, has every right to cash the check, clears the account. Seller's got the $39,000.
Wait, whose money was that?
That might have been Nightberry titles. Yeah, at that point it was
At that point, Nightberry needed to fund the escrow account with its $30-something thousand.
Whoopsie.
So that is the next step we have to do, is fund the escrow account with $30,000 because we don't have real money behind it.
Yep.
And now we have to
We just asked the guy to bring the money back.
We did.
Oh, we did. I mean, I know the story. I don't know why I jumped in on that.
Yeah. We did ask the guy. We that's really cool. That deed, we'll just pretend that didn't happen. Can you just give us our money back? And they're like, no. We said, what if we put a really cool affidavit together and we convince the Register of Deeds that says this is a complete fraud. Oliver St. Lawrence doesn't exist. It's not, and everybody signs that affidavit, and we send it to the Register of Deeds for recording. The Register of Deeds loves it and thinks, I want to record it. But then they went to Corporation Counsel, and Corporation Counsel said, we're not recording that.
Wow.
for the county. And I think they're wrong. And at the end of the day, the seller also gets an attorney, and the attorney says, we need a court order. We need you to go to court to convince the court that Oliver St. Lawrence, when you mailed the check to somebody in New York, was bupkis, and we're going to backtrack the whole thing. So it took about 3
Is
months.
bupkis a Wisconsin term?
Bupkis? No, we say that down here in Missouri. We say bupkis. Yeah.
All right. So now what do we do, Sherry?
So here's a question though, Sherry, real quick. Who was the vested owner of this property? Was it Oliver St. Lawrence?
At that point, yes, because if you look at the Register of Deeds, there's a deed and there's nothing else recorded for a period of time. So that on that Friday, when I put a stop pay on Oliver St. Lawrence's check and also funded the escrow account, I also called the Register of Deeds and said, would it be cool if you don't ever record anything against this property for a little bit? And it's a small town, small county, probably 400,000 people. The Register of Deeds says, we'll do whatever you want to do. We know that this is a criminal, no problem.
Okay. So how, this is what's interesting to me, because we've run into a situation like this in Florida that we discussed on another one of our podcasts. So, and viewers, if you want to check that out, I think it's episode like 24 or something like that. But, so Sherry, what document put him, did he do a quitclaim deed or something? Did he forge a deed before to put himself in title? And how did he find out about it?
Hey, we have the real seller. The real seller came to closing and sold the deed, or sold the property, took proceeds, signed closing statement, signed a deed as if it were a real Oliver St. Lawrence.
Okay.
So we put him in the title. And by
so the seller was legit.
Yeah.
And it was just the buyer. Okay.
I was a good local realtor.
I was thinking too that there was some fraud on the seller as well.
No.
Okay.
Then the seller.
I don't want to besmirch him.
No, he's a great guy. And I have to say, the reason he said, I don't want to bring back in that $39,000 or so proceeds is he's right. He's like, I need to make certain that I can sell that property to another party without any problem.
Exactly. You don't want a cloud on title at that point.
So he said, remove that cloud on title.
Yeah.
So we did the 3 words that I never like to do, but unfortunately we had to in this case.
Quiet title suit.
Title action. Yes.
Yeah.
So we started the quiet title action. That was a kind of fun because you're like, well, how do you serve Oliver St. Lawrence?
Yeah.
You don't.
You
publish. So that takes a little bit of time. We recorded some documents.
How is it? I don't know what it's like in your state, David, but I think in Wisconsin, if we can't serve anyone, we have to publish in 3 consecutive weeks of some newspaper in the local market or something.
Yeah, publication. There's certain things you can do with that, but the problem is, if you do it by publication, at least our underwriting guidelines are that's not insurable for like a year. Potentially.
We're not having that conversation. We're going to write this next one on Agents National Title, I heard. Wasn't that right?
Nice.
Let's just write it on Fidelity. I mean, they'll never know. They don't listen to our podcast either. I'm kidding. Linda, I'm kidding.
So, I mean, yes, you could make an argument that because we're talking about real property rights in Wisconsin, typically you can't publish to be able to divest somebody of real property rights. Typically, you have to have personal service. Well, how on earth are we going to get personal service against Oliver St. Lawrence,
exactly,
who no doubt doesn't live in the United States?
So we have so we have to tell the court, or we have to convince the court that, look, this guy doesn't exist. We can't publish. Let us go on with this.
We had to. We had some affidavits with with our closer and with the realtor that said we never actually spoke to Oliver St. Lawrence. It was only via email. Here's the email. We were able to identify that the email origination was overseas, not in the United States, based on the timing of it. And then we were also able to show the court that he provided us an address to mail his check, which was a vacant lot in New York. So the court thought that was convincing evidence to be allowed for publication.
So really, his take on this was $8,000. He did all of this to try to get $8,000 wired.
Yes.
Wow.
Not a lot of work though.
No.
It was probably about 7 days worth of work.
Because here's the thing, you do this 10 times and you hit on half of it. That's not a bad chunk of change right there. So kids, if you're listening, there's a future in real estate fraud for you.
And apparently you're not going to get prosecuted because nobody knows where you are.
No, just move to a non-extradition country and have fun on the internet.
And I thought part of it, one of my concerns when it first happened, we saw the 2 frauds. Number 1, the $8,000 that we're talking about. Number 2, what would have stopped him had we not immediately reached out to the Register of Deeds, taking out a new loan on that?
Or
from cash out mortgage on that, or selling it to a third party. So timing was critical here to stop the money flow
Yeah.
the 8,000 and stop the subsequent transaction.
So I'm speaking directly to Oliver St. Lawrence here. If you're watching, next time, make sure you take out a loan as well too,
That's right.
so you can multiply your earnings on this fraud scheme.
Yeah, but then lenders nowadays,
Sherry is mapping out exactly how you can make more money on this.
well, I mean, lenders, a lot of lenders today will ask you for, a 12 to 18 month chain of title.
Yep.
So if they see any conveyances within, a relatively short period of time, they're going to raise their eyebrows and maybe catch it. So
And they should, yes.
be quicker to sell the damn thing, sell it for 20 grand. You got 8 from Sherry and 20 from someone else, or
exactly. So, all right, here's a question for you.
I didn't mean to say 8 from Sherry. Sherry, we knew.
Yeah, from Sherry, it's coming out of her pocket. So here's what's kind of interesting is that the fraudsters are kind of going old school again, because it was about 7 or 8 years ago that we had a lot of cashier check fraud, a ton of it. And then all of a sudden they decided, wait a minute. So the industry started to go to wires. And now the wire fraud is huge. Are we getting back to some of this, at least with some of this, some cashier check fraud?
So what's interesting is you don't have to be a criminal that knows how to compromise people's emails for this particular fraud. Yep. All you have to be is a criminal that knows how to reach out to a realtor. That was it. That was the initiation of it. Is that some person out of town? Because we used to always have to have realtors always met people in person to be able to look at homes. Do they do that anymore? As much? Is it pretty common that people will buy stuff sight unseen? So I think that's where this fraud arose. And so all they have to do is, number one, reach out to a realtor. Number two, sign an offer, have an email, and create a bump kiss. I'll just keep using that term, check, and pop in. How much is a stamp these days? 42 cents, 44 cents?
I buy the infinity stamps, whatever, it's like,
I don't know. I let Nightberry send out all my stamps.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Nightberry. Appreciate
Did
that.
it make it easier, Sherry? When Dave said you didn't have to see the property sight unseen, it's a vacant lot. Maybe that's part of it. There's nothing to see. I looked on Google Earth, or I drove by one time. I don't ever need. It's a good reason the realtor wouldn't raise their eyebrow as to why that person was never known.
So where was the address for this New York property that you were supposed to send it to, the money?
Now I have to look that up. You'll have to give me a second, and
I'm hoping that it was like in upstate New York.
It was upstate New York.
So what is the northern border of upstate New York?
Let me think. It's Canada, because I went.
No. But what separates Canada and the U.S. right there?
Well, the Niagara Falls.
St. Lawrence River.
Oh, look at you!
Come on!
Oh my!
And I'm hoping there's a town named Oliver, New York, up there or something like that.
Oh my God! Amazing.
I don't think there is, because I already just Googled it. And
you did? Well, scrambling to Google.
Yeah, but he if he's mailing this to someplace in upstate New York, the St. Lawrence River is right there, and he's just picking out geographic stuff for the name. I love that.
Not all bad things come from claims or mistakes. Our closer probably feels pretty bad about this one, but look, it was a good life lesson. We've all learned, maybe slow down a little bit, be very careful with cashier's checks. Well, our company's definitely learned, and now hopefully our tens of listeners are going to have some education on this. So,
one thing that we advise our agents on, if you get a cashier's check like that, call the bank and verify the cashier's check validity, and don't call the number on the check. Just look up if it's like, U.S. Bank in Albany, New York, and there's a phone number there, just Google that branch, find their phone number, not the one on the check, because usually the number on the check is the fraudster's number. And then if you call and verify that check, especially if it shows up in the mail, then you'll know if it's valid or not, because they'll have it on record if it's a good check.
So I'm looking at the check right now, and there is no phone number on it.
Then Google, what about an address for the bank?
It's BB&T. It was a cashier's check, and that's all I can see. So you'd have to do this. Well, clearly you would call. Clearly you should have deposited those funds well before closing, a week before closing. Let it percolate. Let it be negotiated. Here we would have found that out. Yes,
and it happens.
Or what you do is you do wire in, wire out, check in, check out. To be honest, our closer did the right thing.
You never do the wire out. And it's amazing how many times, people try to get away with things like this, where they go deposit their check via mobile banking, if it's a smaller one, and then come back and say, I'd like a wire. And they'll, once that check leaves your office, never exchange it for a wire after that. If it's walked out of your office, sorry, then you're going to have to cash it. We won't exchange it for a wire. I mean, people just do dumb stuff like that all the time. Yeah, it's really interesting to see this type of fraud popping back up again. And Sherry, would you say that like a vacant lot, a bank-owned house, I mean, that there are certain targets for this?
Based on my experience, heck yeah. It's going to be the target where the realtors, it's going to be a quick turnaround. Yeah. And they know it's a quick turnaround property. And so that's where they're focusing, and where the realtors are going to be expecting that you're going to have a lot of outside investors coming in thinking about purchasing that. Yeah. So
this isn't going to be a $400,000 house in a nice neighborhood that usually somebody's wanting to come in and look at before they buy. This is going to be the rental properties, the vacant lots, probably $100,000 and less. A dilapidated property where they're trying to say, look, it's going to be a cash quick deal. Let's get this thing, and a lot of pressure from the buyer to hurry things up.
Yeah. I think from offer to when it was supposed to close was 1 week. So
wow.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Red flag right there.
All the red flags that we want to point out in this podcast, you just summarized. So that's a good one.
Yeah. And here's a problem too. Volumes are so high right now. This is how things fall through the cracks. You get deals like that, and it just takes, one person to get a phone call while they're looking at this that diverts their attention, and they just move this file along.
So
it's also, this was small town USA.
Yeah.
This never happens in small town USA, right? I mean, literally everybody knows each other, all the realtors, all the bankers, all the title folks, they know each other. So unfortunately, it used to be frauds were only in big cities. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you're going to be subject in small town USA. You can't be. Do I trust anybody? No. I was talking to my daughter the other day. She said, I'm like, no, I don't trust anyone. She's so optimistic and young and 18 years old, and the world's her oyster. No, we don't trust a thing.
Sure, crush her spirit. She needs to learn that this is an awful place, and that there's no hope in the world.
Finally, somebody has said what I've been trying to say for years.
Oh, that's funny. Sherry, appreciate you coming on and enlightening us. David, thanks for the great comments. I also want to let the audience know too, that if you've got an interesting story like this, heck, even if it's not that interesting, Dave and I will punch it up and make it more interesting.
We'll add great details to it.
Please contact us by emailing show@thatfloats.com and just say, hey, I got a good story. I'll give you a buzz. David, give you a buzz, and we'll get some of the details together and get you on, and we'll have some fun with this. So we appreciate everyone for watching. Dave, last words?
Let's go Mizzou Tigers. We got Florida coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping the game time's right, so Craig can make an appearance.
Buddy, if I go to Missouri with you to watch my awful Florida Gators beat up on your awfler, if that's a word, Missouri Tigers, we need to make sure we prepare for some advanced liver treatment time, and then for post liver treatment recovery, because I only get to see you a couple times a year. Well, mostly at title events where we have to be well behaved. Yes. But a couple times a year, I get to see you outside of a title event, and it's not. It's harsh. We might age ourselves 3-4 years.
So, all right, we got to do a montage video of some fun at Pewaukee Lake.
We are. Oh, by the way, David, sorry, Sherry, to bore you on this. David, someone posted a comment somewhere about us that said, these guys are hilarious. They'd probably be funny reading the phone book. So here's what we're going to do for our next episode. You and I are going to just read the Alta directory. We're just going to read title names starting from A, title company names, as far as we can go until we're no longer funny.
Welcome to the end of our podcast.